All right, are we live? Can you guys hear me this time? Hopefully you can hear me. Jan, hey, how's it going? Anybody else in here yet? Give it just a minute here. All right, if you guys don't know who I am Brett. I am half of Brazen Scale RC. Wesley is the other half. He may join us in the chat tonight. I'm not entirely sure. But tonight, I plan on talking about our new SCX10 Pro chassis, the Oracle. Things that we did different and how it works, really. Of course, we can talk about anything you guys want to talk about. So just post up in the chat there and we can talk about whatever. So I guess to start off, again, we're doing the Oracle chassis. And this is a stock replacement chassis for the SCX10 Pro. Flat skid, flat bottom, so legal in all three Sorca classes. Carbon fiber, nice and lightweight, and 100% bolt-on, including the body mounting, the sliders, transmissions, everything. And 100% bolt-on, including the body mounting, the sliders, transmissions, everything. Another nice thing about them is any really SCX10 based skid plates will bolt on here. So if you don't want to use the factory transmission, you can use any of the other transmissions that fit on our Pro skid or any other SCX skid really. But so if you wanted to run a 2-point low or a Creeper T or a Deluxe Trans or anything like that, you could just swap out the factory skid plate and factory transmission to whatever else you wanted to put on it. So try to make it versatile and try to make it easy for people who are just getting into it to be able to step along instead of jumping into a full custom chassis if they're not ready to yet. So I guess that's kind of what quick overview of what we're trying to do here. I do have the truck built with this chassis. See, body mounting is all done. I threw just some RTR random electronics in it that I had here because if this big old motor will fit, just about anything will fit. What's up, everybody in the chat? Good to see you all. Does it resemble the C1 Pro geometry? It's similar, I suppose. It's not going to be the same, but as far as like the rear link risers and everything go, they're fairly similar. I always put my hand on the wrong side of the camera there. Fairly similar, but not perfect. When you line up the skid height there, they're pretty close. But if you compare bumper heights, the C1 Pro has a lot of clearance compared to it. So, but if you compare shock mounting heights, this C1 Pro doesn't have hoops on it right now, but if you had them built with the same height shocks, they would basically be about like this, different in the height of the belly. Ryan, the Oracle is for the new SCX10 Pro. This guy. Since that factory chassis has an angled skid, you cannot run it in Class 1 if you wanted to comp with it. So making this flat-bellied chassis allows you to run it in any class. So you could run it in C2 or C3. Yeah, the C1 Pro belly height is killer, but with the height of the factory transmission and the height of the motor mount on the SCX10 Pro, I just couldn't make them. Couldn't make up that height difference really. So the Oracle is a taller chassis. But if you look at the factory chassis versus ours, at the belly area, you're really, really close. You're not going to, let me line up the skid plate holes there. And then I'll flip it around here without moving it. So you're really about a millimeter, well, about 2 millimeters right here at the back of the skid is the only difference in belly height of the factory angled skid chassis and the replacement chassis. So realistically, you're not going to lose a bunch of ground height or belly height for breakovers and stuff like that. So it'll still be a good competitor for sure. Yeah, clearance is clearance, but sometimes when you're dealing with stock parts, you just can't. Like I said, the height difference between the motor mount and the top shaft of the transmission just didn't work out to change the belly height as drastically as we did on the C1 Pro. But again, this chassis is aimed to try to help people step into the custom chassis world and step into comps a little easier, because they can literally just buy this kit and assemble it with this chassis set as the instructions tell you to, just with a different rail, and be able to compete in any class instead of just in C2 or C3 if they wanted to. So that was the intention behind it. And then when somebody really wants to step up even further, that's when we would point them into a more comp-oriented, or well, not even more comp-oriented, but a more full-on custom build instead of just a bolt-on thing. It's for noobs like you. Yeah, pretty much. Will I do any videos of stock rig versus with brazen rails? Yeah, I definitely can. I don't have another one of these trucks right now, though, so I'll have to do a video. I wouldn't be able to do them the same day, like back to back, but I can build it. I can obviously take video of it now and take video of it, put it back to stock and take video of it again, but can definitely do that. So it works for C1 even having molded shock hoops and carbon fiber. Yeah, so 2023 rules, shock hoops do not have to be bolt-on in Class 1 anymore, and there is no material designation anymore. So you are allowed carbon fiber and you are allowed integrated shock hoops. So I had, this was version 1 of this chassis with bolt-on hoops, and the rear hoop was adjustable. So you could slide it forward or back. But the problem with that is the panhard mount bolts to the outside of the chassis rails from stock. So having the shock hoop mounted on the outside meant that the panhard mount had to be even further outside. Wasn't really a big deal, but it didn't fit how I wanted it to, and it probably would have caused some questions. So instead of dealing with questions, I fixed it. So I don't have to deal with it anymore. And it's less extra pieces I had to cut, because obviously I would have had to cut individual shock hoops front and rear. Now I don't have to. So that's nice. I do believe it will help bring C1 drivers for sure. Yeah, me too. I hope this truck brings a lot of new people to the hobby. Tom, quit texting me, homo. Making my watch ding. All right, fix that problem. Any questions about the chassis real quick before we get off topic? And then we can get as far off topic as you want. I won a Proline metric body sometime last year, so I sprayed that black. That's what's going to go on this truck. I got to chop up the fender flares a little bit so I can not rub on the fenders so bad. But yeah, it's going to be a Proline metric body. I don't know where the hood is. It's around here somewhere. But you're ready for one? Well, I've got one for you. So as far as availability, I've got 7 sheets of carbon fiber coming on Thursday. So if all goes well, I believe these should be available on Friday. I'm hoping to have them on the website by like Friday afternoon sometime. I'll be chopping up a bunch of them. So hopefully that will appease people. That way people will also have, well, I'll beat the second batch of the trucks to people's hands. People have the first batch already, but sounds like the second batch isn't coming until April. I was set on your C1 Leaf chassis. Been talking to you, but this has me second guessing. It's a totally different setup though. So if you're into leaf springs, the leaf spring chassis is definitely going to be what you want. But if you want to build a kit off of a comp truck, then this is a different way to do it. New crawling place in Cedar Rapids, Iowa was a lot of fun, and Brazen C2 did very well. Yes, they do very well. And Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I didn't know if there was rocks up there or not. I wish we had rocks around here. Steel offering. Not currently. It will be carbon, G10, or aluminum. I don't really see a whole big need for steel. Steel is just sprung weight. We don't really want that. Another nice thing about this carbon fiber rail, I'll have to pull up the measurement or pull up the weights real quick. I weighed the factory chassis, one single rail at 62 grams and one carbon fiber rail at 29 grams. So we're able to drop a bunch of sprung weight off the chassis, which helps the suspension work a little better and just drop overall weight in general. So aluminum option. Yeah, there will be aluminum. That may be a couple days behind just because waiting on laser shop and whatnot, but I'll be placing that order very soon. I haven't done that yet, but that'll be very soon. And I do have a Pro V2 here, so we can compare. You line up the shock heights. The Pro V2 does have quite a bit of belly area available compared to the Oracle. So what I do like about the SCX10 Pro is the motor mount. Unfortunately, it's pretty wide at like 75 millimeters compared to like Team Garage Hack is 67 millimeters. So if you're wanting to change the forward motor mount in the chassis, you would need some sort of a spacer of some kind, which may or may not. I mean, this motor mount's going to be fine. There's nothing wrong with it. So I don't really see a need to do that. But if you're wanting to narrow the chassis up, it may be a little difficult. Another thing that with this chassis, the only thing you really have to do is remove the standoffs from between the motor mount and the transmission. There's two aluminum spacers that go between there. Just ditch them. They're not needed. There's two mounting bolts on either side of the motor mount, and that's plenty sufficient, I think. I don't see a problem with that. I haven't had a problem with it yet, and I don't see it being a problem. So that's how I'm going to run mine. Hopefully get one in the second batch. Yeah, hopefully a lot of people do because it's a nice truck. Just the probably 2.5 hours, 3 hours I've spent driving it between stock and with this chassis, I really like the truck. I've got it locked in the high overdrive, so I think that's like 40% overdrive, which I normally run about 30. So I was a little leery about that to begin with, but after driving it, I like that amount of overdrive. I haven't had an issue with it. I don't think there will be an issue with it. Any questions? Anybody? Anything? Yeah, it's an indoor place in Rapid City? That's cool. Definitely tempting. Well, hopefully it's tempting enough. Let me know what I need to do to put you over the edge for tempting you. Just more awesome stuff you got going. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I like it. I like the way it's headed. I like the way it looks. I like the way it works. It's not going to replace my C1 Pro in my personal comp trucks, but it will definitely work. ATL Pro 2 or Oracle for a C2. It depends on how much of a custom truck you want to build. If you are looking for something that is a complete kit that isn't going to push your limits, as you know, I don't know what everybody's building skill is or how deep they want to dive or how much time they have to dive. Um, this Oracle kit on an SCX10 Pro is an easy build. Um, the Pro V2 takes some more tweaking and tuning, but in my opinion, you're going to have better clearances, better skid angles, better breakover angles on the Pro V2 than the Oracle. But again, the Oracle is going to be much easier to build. Ever try a portal axle leafer? Yeah, Wesley has the our original leaf spring kit. Wesley modified a leaf spring kit and has a his Forerunner has TRX4 portals underneath it, and the front is leaf spring. Works pretty well. Yeah, Wesley's the leaf master. Yeah, he is. Purple carbon is tempting. I don't have any purple carbon right now, and I don't have any ordered either. I don't know. F10s are 5 millimeter. What do you mean by that? Yeah, but Wesley's leaf spring front Forerunner works pretty well. I think he's got that one spring under, so it's not super tall. But he's been beating on that for a couple years. Works pretty well. I know he folds up leaf springs every now and then on it because it just gets bound up, but that's what happens with leaf springs. Hopefully, Metal Masher gets mine done fairly soon because I want that truck back. I want to finish it. Not that I'm rushing him or anything. It's not a big deal, but I'd like to have it done by Axial Fest. Yeah, I don't leave a whole lot on the bones for sheets of carbon, Lucas. I try not to leave any. Well, there always will be scrap, but I try not to leave a whole lot of scrap. There's enough room to make little shock hoops or little brackets or a little battery tray or something like that, but not enough really to make a chassis out of. Otherwise, I would have made a chassis out of it. Martin, what's up, buddy? Team driver Martin Chafin in the building. Tim Weiss is also a team driver for us. Thank you for joining, Tim. Just enough room to make your cool rings. Well, yes, but it can only do like one at a time, which is kind of annoying because then you got to set the machine up, cut one ring, move the machine, set it up again. You know, move the home position, set it up again, cut one more ring, then do it. It's a pain in the butt. Want to drive Martin's C1? Yeah, Martin has a fancy new C1 F10 portal leafer. Yeah, so I don't want to say too much. There are a bunch of new leaf spring things coming from us as soon as Wesley gets done prototyping stuff. Um, I think a lot of you guys are going to like. TGH forward motor mount will not bolt into the Oracle. These are vertical holes where the TGH uses an offset. This chassis has a vertical set in it, but that's because you can mount the forward motor mount standard or mirrored in here. That's why there's 3 slots instead of 2. So you would not be able to. This is more similar to a Toizuki forward motor mount, but the hole spacing is different. Wow, that's not focusing worth a crap. Anyway, the hole spacing is different on a Toizuki. So, kind of is what it is. I wish that, I mean, I guess I could set this up to do a TGH forward motor mount, but if you're going that far, you wouldn't be able to use the stock dual servo mount, and you wouldn't be using the stock motor mount, and you wouldn't be using the stock transmission. So at that point, there's really no benefit to go with the Oracle over a C1 Pro. So if you're wanting to go if you're wanting to do a different brand of forward motor mount, I would suggest a different chassis. That's just not what the Oracle's for. The Oracle is a bolt-on friendly type chassis. So yeah, I could integrate a bunch of different forward motor mount locations, but I've got other chassis for that. If you don't have a CNC cutter, how could you cut carbon sheets? Um, you're not gonna. You can cut a chassis with a Dremel. Um, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to make a big mess. And you definitely don't want to breathe the dust and stuff that comes off of it. But if you're doing like little battery trays and stuff like that, I mean, you can cut carbon with a hacksaw. It's not that big of a deal. It will splinter on the edges, but you can sand those out and whatnot. The rotary tools, yeah, big mess. Rotary tools will spin fast enough to cut these pretty easily, but again, it just makes a big mess. Just finished swapping chassis to the ATL V2 Pro. Went to the first local comp, took second. Painting the body now. I'm watching this. Nice. Congratulations. Good driving. A good driver can make a good chassis work very well, and sounds like you got what it takes to make it work. Ease of the Oracle build will definitely grow C1 for sure, and really take the stress and fear out of building. That's the entire point of it, Tim. Thank you. It's I just for people that aren't ready to push their skill set yet, it's an easy step in, and it'll still work very well. Like I said last week, or when I was on Tim's stream, also, the truck performs very well. Wyatt has already proven that, and I don't see how this chassis would change any negative performance wise, because like I showed her a little bit ago, the breakover angles versus the factory chassis at the same shock heights is negligible. So you're really only, if we mount the front skid holes the same and shock heights very similar, you're really super hard to see there. I mean, you're very close. The 3-degree angle on the factory chassis isn't a whole lot. So, Jake, for people like me, yeah, right. Yeah, right. You're fully capable of building awesome stuff, and you know it. Jake is another brazen team driver. Looks like we got a whole bunch of these guys in the house tonight. Thank you all for joining. Hopefully, you all hit the like button for me so we can entice me to continue doing these if you guys like them. If not, say you don't like them too, and I will not waste a couple of hours a night on a Monday night. I could be at home watching Street Outlaws or something, wasting my life away, but I'm sitting here talking to you guys on the internet. I thought about trying to see if a Vanquish VFD would go in there. Worth a crap. Watch for the beard. Yeah, I'll keep it. I'll keep it. I've had it for, I think, 4 years now. Going back through pictures, I think I've been growing my beard for 4 years. My son is 6. He'll be 7 in June. And I'm not sure that he remembers me without a beard. So he'd probably be in for a shock if I shaved it. There are days where I think about shaving it, but then I quickly come to my senses and remember that I enjoy having a beard. So, beards and dad bods are in style, and I got both of them. Don't tell my wife. There might have just been an accident outside my shop. If we hear sirens in a few minutes, I'll know there was a car accident out front. That was rather loud. I will say the Brazen guys are pretty awesome. Despite the rumors, they're pretty cool. Some of us are pretty cool. Wesley's kind of sketchy. Free metal. Man, I'm telling you, that sounded pretty. I almost want to go check, but I almost I also don't want to go check. Got to meet some of them at Crawlapalooza. You met most of us at Crawlapalooza. This past year, we had probably 85% of the team there. I think we were only missing 2 or 3 or 4 guys, so it was a good time. Do it. No, I don't really want to check. I don't like seeing. I like seeing that stuff, but I don't like seeing it at the same time. So traffic is moving out there, so it probably wasn't an accident, but it sure sounded like it. Beards and drills suck. I ripped a chunk out last week. Ooh, yeah, no. I cut carbon fiber pretty much full time in the shop, so I'm constantly wearing a mask. So there's like a line in my beard right here, and it's from the mask. So I normally tuck my beard into my shirt, and I wear my mask, so I don't have to deal with that. But I have seen videos of people taking chunks of beard out with grinders or drills and whatever. But yeah, that's why this line's here in my beard right now. Jacked up from a mask. I don't know where it's at. It's probably over by the machine somewhere. I think I know all the guys that weren't there. Yeah, most of the guys that weren't there were either from Hawaii and didn't make it. Jake made it from Hawaii to Oklahoma, so that was nice. We had 2 other guys in Hawaii that didn't make it. One from Ohio, one in Indiana, and 2 in California that didn't make it. But everybody else was there. So what do I think about the Sidewinder 4 ESC? It's been a long time since I ran a Sidewinder ESC. I don't really have an opinion on it, I don't think. If I did have an opinion on it, I forgot it a long time ago. Retiring them 2 and hence leaning ATL Pro V2. Yeah, the ATL Pro V2 and the C1 Pro are very similar chassis as far as geometry goes and motor mount placement and things like that. So if you line up bumper heights between the 2, that little nick in the back of the skid is the belly height difference between the 2 chassis. So you do get quite a bit of clearance on the C1 Pro, but the Pro V2, you get the angled skid. So if you like angled skids, that's the way to go instead. Always something happening around that shop. Yep, there is something happening around this shop at all times. Where's the new chassis? New chassis right here, Paul. If you missed the beginning of the show and are just checking in, I guess we will go back over this. This is called the Oracle, and this chassis is a bolt-on factory replacement for the SCX10 Pro. This allows you to be able to run any Sorca class 1, 2, or 3 legal with the flat horizontal belly area, but still be 100% bolt-on to the factory chassis, including sliders and things like that. So later on down the road, when everybody's making new sliders and new body mounts and things like that for these chassis for specific bodies and things like that, you will be able to utilize all that stuff as well. So hopefully it just makes things a little easier for people who want to step into the comp scene or step into custom builds. Make it a little easier for them to get their feet wet. So there's that. And then assembled on the truck is here. Stock body mounts, front and rear, stock transmission, stock motor mount, stock servo mount, factory bumper mounts. I don't have the bumpers installed. Stock links, stock sliders, 100% bolt-on. Very nice setup. Do I prefer straight or portal axles in class 2? I prefer straight axles in class 2. Running a 475 tire with a straight axle gives you about the same amount of axle height clearance as running a portal with a 4.19 in class 1. So you can drive the truck very similar to a class 1 style. You can still look further ahead. I think portals probably raise the center of gravity a little higher than I like in class 2. So I I run straight axles in class 2. Really thinking about another C1 Pro for C3 capper axles and run CMS for points. Yeah, that's my plan here as well. I think I showed it to you last week, but my class 3 is a C1 Pro. I run high clearance style front links, but as you can see, they are bent, like the bends are facing out, so they lay flat. They lay flat on the bottom here instead of being like an arc for a high clearance link. That gives you a pretty smooth transition to the skid. So, yeah, that's my class 3. Class 1 Pro, C1 Pro. Josh, sorry I didn't get to your message there before it disappeared. Sorry. You want to post that back up or reword it or whatever you want to do. Will the C1 Pro sliders work with the extra cab hard body? I don't know. Martin, if you are still in here, did you try those sliders with a extra cab body? I don't think they do. I think the hole spacing's different. I think the holes on the side of the body are spaced further apart, but I don't know for sure. I haven't personally tried to run that body. If the hole spacing's the same as the Mojave body, they can work if you want to drill new holes in the body to fit. Yeah, see, I thought the holes in the body itself were different spacing. You can drill, measure the hole spacing on the sliders and just drill new holes in the body, but yeah, thank you, Martin. I thought you had tried to run that body. But yeah, this is the Oracle. And then I showed this earlier, but this was version 1. Had bolt-on shock hoops. The rear hoop was adjustable, but it just didn't work out the way I wanted it to as far as the panhard mount went. So I just decided to go ahead and integrate the hoops. But yeah. Any other questions right now about the Oracle, or we can get off topic again? I haven't heard any sirens, so I don't think that was a car accident. They might have just bounced off the curb and kept driving or something, but it definitely sounded like a car crash out there. Trying to mount an F350 body to my high-low to get some more scale points right now. Okay, so Braden, we can talk about this tonight, man. I've been meaning to do a video for you on how I pointed out my Class 3 truck or my Class 2 truck, because I know that that's been one of your common questions as far as how to get extra points. So let me get through a couple more questions here. I've got my interior for my Class 3 sitting here on the table, and I've got the chassis for the truck sitting down here on the floor, so we can quickly kind of go over what and how I'm pointing that truck out. What bolt-on towers work with this new chassis for Class 1? You don't need bolt-on towers. They are already integrated. Shock mount towers are already on it. Don't need anything. When can we see these available on the site? Sorry, I got here late. Yeah, no problem. So I've got carbon fiber. I've got, I think, 7 sheets, either 6 or 7 sheets of carbon fiber coming on Thursday. So these should be on the site by Friday afternoon. I'm going to, as soon as the carbon gets here, start cutting and chopping and get them photographed and on the website for you guys. Opinions on SCX10 Pro truck overall? It's a great truck. I drove it with the stock chassis on it for a couple of battery packs, just to get a feel for the truck and a feel for how it drives, so that because I knew I was going to be making a chassis for it, I wanted to make sure I wasn't screwing it up by putting a chassis on it. So I got a pretty good feel for the truck in general, and it was a performance truck. I didn't have any issues with it, and I don't think anybody will have issues with it. There are things that could be modified or changed to be made a little better, but that comes along with having a truck that they built for the masses. So there are things you can do to the stock truck to move things around. One of the things that I did on this Oracle chassis versus the stock chassis is the motor mount holes are 4 millimeters lower. So I was able to lower the whole motor mount and the motor and everything down 4 millimeters. Um, if I knew what motor every single person in the crawler industry ran, I could probably, if everybody ran, small Holmes Puller 400s or something like that, they could probably get another 3 or 4 or 5 millimeters lower out of the motor mount. But I know people are going to try to put fusion systems in them and things like that. So I got to kind of try to understand I got to kind of make concessions also as far as where these hole placements go so that they work for everybody or as many people as possible. So there are still things that we could do, but again, when you really start getting to the point in your journey where you really want to start tweaking and tuning and making it custom, that's when I would suggest just swapping out to something more comp oriented. These trucks are comp oriented; they're all comp oriented, but something more full custom build instead. Your experience versus general public, you have to not build for you alone. Yeah, exactly. So the and that's one of the things that I talked about with Wyatt at King of the Hammers was, they have to do certain things a certain way because not everybody's going to build the truck the same way. So you guys still making wheels? Yeah, I'm still making wheels. I haven't had a whole lot of time. I've been running the lathe, doing other things to try to keep the lights on, but more wheels are coming. I've got material here, and that's another one of my on my list of things to manufacture. It's pretty close to the top, so that's gonna be towards the top of the list. So, anyway, Braden, if you are still here, buddy, pop up in the chat there, and we can discuss some scale points for class 2 and 3. I know you run Sorka Light, so it's not all going to matter to you, but there are smart ways to go about getting points and there are hard ways to go about getting points. So sure, it's a short list. Yeah, it's a rather long list, but it gets shorter by the day. I try to make the list shorter by the day. The wheels are getting to the top of the list, so yeah. Skeletons, yes, Tim. Skeletons, skeletons, skeletons. I'm still here, but I do want to run full circle. Okay, cool. So longer than the beard. Yeah. So as far as Sorka points go for my class 2 and class 3, let's talk about class 3 because it is a Lexan body. So getting to 50 points is a little bit more difficult with a Lexan body than a hard body, but it's not hard at all. So one thing you'll notice about all of my trucks is they all run CMS, all 3 classes, and they all run a transfer case setup in all 3 classes. So those 2 choices alone are 9 points. Those 9 points means I don't have to build gigantic sliders to fill the center rectangle. It also means that I don't have to run a roof rack on top of the truck. This chassis doesn't have a rear bumper on it yet, but it will, and it will be a metal bumper. And I don't have the stinger welded on here yet, but it will be. So there's another 7 points. So the chassis alone, and then putting rotors on is another point, and the winch is another point. So there's quite a bit of points wrapped up before you even start on a body. Then you do something like this. This is a craft foam interior, so it's a custom interior. The cliffhanger body is an extended cab, so now you have 2 rows. So there are 4 seats in here, 2-row interior, a 2-row cage, and a driver and a co-pilot. This alone, right here, with the couple of scale points I have in here, is like 26 points or something like that. So this 26 points right here means again that I don't have to build sliders. It means that I don't have to run a roof rack. It means that I don't have to have a drop bed. It just makes life a lot easier, and it doesn't weigh anything at all. This weighs less than the Lexan body itself with the bed cut out of it. And in class 2 and class 3, you don't have to cover the shock hoops in the rear. You have to if you want drop bed points, but I don't care about drop bed points because there's more than half of my entire scale points are right here. It makes life a lot easier. I don't have to run a roll bar. I don't have to run a headache rack. I don't have to run any of the extra stuff that is weight up top. Plus, again, it's a Lexan body. So class 2 and class 3 points are much, much easier than you think they are, especially when you have 8 points in skeletons that weigh 12 grams total. Those 8 points are huge because metal sliders are what, 3 points? A drop bed is another 3 points. The amount of work it takes and the weight of a slider that supports the weight of the truck and a drop bed that has small enough wheel wells and covers the shock towers and all that stuff to get two less points out of it, I'm good. Then a metal roof rack is 2 points, I think. I don't know. So to get the same amount of points, you have to build sliders, a drop bed, and run a roof rack. It doesn't make any sense. Sometimes it's about just planning out the points before you start building. I won Harley's heart with craft foam. Harley liked my brass roof rack last year also. It was the thinnest sheet of brass that I could find, and I cut the roof rack. The brass was so thin that I was able to cut it with my X-Acto knife to make the roof rack, and then I cut the entire roof out of the truck and put the roof rack over top of it. So the amount of plastic I cut out weighed twice as much as the brass that I put on top of the truck. So I still lost, half, whatever the weight of the plastic was, half of that. Still have sliders or no side protection. I will end up running I guess you could call it a slider, but more of an electronics tray. The term sliders in Sorca mean that they protect the bottom corners of the bottom edges of the body, and they have to go from X point to X point in your rectangles. And as far as that term is concerned, no, I don't run sliders in any of my classes. There is no protection on the bottom of the body. 3D printed. They are multi-jet fusion printed. Our normal hard body mount sliders, I run those on my C1 and C2, but realistically, the only thing I use it for is a battery mount. So, but they don't count as sliders in Sorca, unfortunately. Well, again, it doesn't really matter. So I don't use them for points. So didn't hurt my feelings at all. So when this interior goes in here, it's nice and snug, and then it will get glued along this back edge here with shoe goo, and it will get glued to the bottom of the hood with shoe goo, and then I'll put a piece of angled styrene against the door and shoe goo that in there to make a channel. So the interior, basically, I'll have to cut it out if I need to get it out. When will the C1 Pro be available in carbon? Also need the Pro Skid, hard body sliders, and pan hard mount. Chassis Friday. After I get some of the Oracle chassis cut, I will cut some C1 Pros. Pro Skids are in stock. Hard body sliders are in stock, and if they're not in stock, I believe we just got a bunch of. I think Wesley got a bunch of them today, so he's got to go through and do inspection on them and tap the holes in them, and then they'll go on the side also. Pan hard mounts we have plenty of. We do thousands of those at a time. So there's a bunch of those. But yeah, again, here's the Oracle chassis. Anybody who just came in and has questions about the Oracle, let me know. So, how did I come up with the name? So, Oracle is a person or thing regarded as an infallible authority or guide on something. So, this truck, in my opinion, and this chassis specifically are here to guide people into the world of the comp scene. And so that's why I racked my brain all day. I bugged a bunch of people, bouncing names off each other. We had a bunch of names tossed around in the team driver chat. And while I was at lunch today, I just came up with that. So let me know if you hate it. If you hate it, it's not too late to change it. It hasn't been officially posted on the website yet. So there's that. Also on the website, I don't know if anybody else noticed, I created a new section for Josh Hibner, Hibby made products. We have winch hooks and rotors in stock from Hibby. All US made locally to me here, about, I don't know, 45 minutes away. And high quality product I will stand behind, and he will as well, but I absolutely will. So if you guys are looking for winch hooks or rotors, they are on the website also. Does the new chassis change the skid angle? Absolutely. It has no skid angle instead of 3 degrees, allowing you to use it in class 1, class 2, or class 3 instead of just class 1 or 2. Sorry I'm late. Was busy working on the ATL. What I miss? You missed everything. You missed everything. No, we're just talking about the Oracle. If you have any questions, let us know. I'm sure, well, you're a team driver, so you've seen it all. Thank you for joining us. Again, we've got another team driver in here, Bash Squatch RC. Thank you, sir. For a rear servo, would you run low pro and run behind the axle for C3? My C3 is running a low profile servo. It is on a Boco F10 axle mount, and I've got the rear axle set up at 0 caster. So I was able to get the servo up out of the weeds. It basically follows the same plane as the bend in the rear links. So it's up out of the weeds, and so is the drive shaft. Pricing for the public, same as other frame sets you offer. This should be right around $65 retail for the rail set. And again, this is 100% bolt-on for the SCX10 Pro. Try to make it as easy as possible. Nice, thank you. Again, if you guys have any questions or concerns or comments or whatever, I mean, now's the time to speak your mind about them, because again, this hasn't been posted at all. If you like the pricing, let me know. If you don't, let me know. Aluminum option for Oracle, yes, there will be aluminum, carbon fiber, and G10. Carbon and G10 will be available on Friday on the website, assuming all goes well. And aluminum will be probably next week sometime. Props to your team drivers. Austin B is local to me, and we chat often. Yeah, Austin's great. I love Austin. He's a cool dude. Austin and Ashley both got to meet Ashley at Crawlapalooza this year, so she's a hoot. Nice chassis, nice price as well. Thank you. Thank you. I know, I think did you get a Pro or not? Might have to look into changing my C3 to a C1 Pro or ATL Pro so I can get the points like your truck. So, I mean, realistically, again, with starting off with a high-low, you just have to think a little differently about getting the points. If you class 3 bodies, you can really, really chop up a body and still get hard body points. So I would just, man, just sit down with the rules and look at them and try to plan the build in your head first, man. Start at 50 points, and then if you think you're going to use all 14 of the scale points, start right there. Knock that off the 50 points, and then go through the points sheets and see how many other things you need to get to the points where you want to reach. How thick of G10? Any more front upper link holes for tuning? It'll be 1/8 inch G10 or 1/8 inch carbon fiber, also 1/8 inch aluminum. Um, and no, there's actually less forward link mount holes because they have too many. My opinion, the factory chassis, there's a bunch of horizontal holes, but I added one extra hole. If you line these up, these two holes are different in my chassis than factory. They are both vertical on mine instead of having an angle to them. Like this. If the chassis is vertical, these two front holes are at an angle, where mine are vertical. The factory front link uh, doesn't reach any of those other holes to keep when you keep the caster angle where it needs to be and the pinion angle where it needs to be. So, I mean, without changing the upper link, you can't utilize any of these other holes. So, removed some extra holes. Thank Rob Gunning for turning me on to you. Yeah, Rob's a great dude too. Rob's been a customer of ours since before Brazen was even a company. So we appreciate Rob quite a bit. Awesome price point. Got a friend that got one. More than likely get one. Yeah. If you can find them locally, snap them up right now. If your local hobby shop has one, snap it up. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting a couple months till probably April or May to get one, which is unfortunate because it is a great truck. So I think it'll be a great thing for the comp scene having a kit truck like this that somebody can walk into the hobby shop and purchase the kit and be able to get out on the courses and crush gates and run them over and knock them off course like I do. Cool, that's what I was hoping. Looking for a lowered link hole. Yeah, I've actually got mine set up on the lowest hole on my truck. Will Brazen have frame packages with braces and skids for one set price? The C1 Pro is packaged up with the dual servo mounts and the skid and things like that. I could do the Pro V2 that way also. As far as braces go, everybody kind of builds their trucks a little differently. So either 67 or 70 millimeter braces, they're not hard to come by. You're going to be ordering a link set anyway. So Hardcore RC has chassis braces in 67 or 70 millimeters in stock. So while you're ordering your link set, just pick up a couple of chassis braces. I don't remember whether I talked about it on here last week or whether Tim and I talked about it, TRD Adventures, on his live stream on Thursday. But I think I talked about it on here last week. But changing the position of where you put the chassis spacers at can change the flex in the chassis and change the way the truck handles. So adding extra spacers or subtracting spacers can make the truck drive different. And I don't know how everybody wants to drive the truck. So as far as packages go and kits go, basically just dual servo mount, panhard mount, skid, and frame rails come in a kit for the C1 Pro. Smashing gates and looking good doing it. Yeah, that's the point. Did I get any DSMs yet? Yeah. Wesley received a shipment of DSMs earlier today. He's got to go through and QC them and tap holes, and they should be on the website in the next day or two. So for this chassis, I won't need to buy anything else like skid, servo mount, and panhard mount. No, so you buy the SCX10 Pro kit. This Axial SCX10 Pro kit, and you take and build it just like the instructions tell you, but instead of using this factory frame rail set, you use this chassis instead. And that'll allow you to run Class 1 Sorca or a class 2 or a class 3. What are benefits to changing the skid angle other than class requirements? It's class requirements. That's why we got rid of the 3-degree angle skid, just so you can run it in class 1. Ah, there's Wesley. He's in the chat. Drilling and tapping DSM since 5 p.m. It's now 8 p.m. his time. Yeah, he got a bunch of them in. So, and Wesley, did you get sliders also? Body mount sliders? Anyone know the front link length for a C1 Pro with F10 axles? I can tell you. Just a second. Let's find my messages with Lance from Hardcore and get that for you. It'll take me a second to scroll through our messages here to find it. C1 Pro with F10 portals. Front upper link eye to eye is 109 millimeters. Vanquish dual servo mount bolt on the ATL Pro V2. No, I don't believe it does. And is versus my 3D printer offering. Yeah, no, I don't think it's close. You could make it if you drilled probably 2 holes. Dang, the wind's kicking up out there. I think if you drilled maybe 1 or 2 holes per rail, you could get the Vanquish dual servo mount in there. I haven't. The last time I tried to do anything like that was when the VS410 Origin came out, and I believe I had to drill 2 holes per rail. Flat skids can be a performer. Absolutely, they can. And the other nice thing again about this chassis, I don't know if I mentioned it once, but this chassis you can run any of the standard SCX10 based flat skids. So if you wanted to swap out the factory transmission for like a Toizuki transfer case or a TGH transfer case, it's easy to do. Can you say the lower length to the front lowers? Front lowers are 116 millimeters eye to eye. And for those, I run a high clearance type, but I bend them flat, lay them flat. So again, if you look here, it looks like the links are splayed out to the side, but they lay flat this way. So the bend goes basically around the motor, and same thing with the upper link. The upper link is also a bent link. Kind of hard to see. I haven't mastered the whole focus thing yet. So the front upper is also a bent link, and it goes around the motor. Depending on how big of a motor you run, this particular setup didn't need the Holmes Polar 400 did not require a bent link around that, but I already had the bent links. Sliders been a popular item. When I put the DSM order, we're fully stocked on sliders, so an order would be in. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think I have one set of Pro V2 sliders on hand here, and that's it. So sliders, 10 to 14 days. But back to the Oracle. Looks like a great option for C1. What time do you expect them to drop on Friday? Probably between noon and 3 Eastern time. It depends on how many interruptions I have on Thursday and Friday while I'm manufacturing. Realistically, Thursdays a group of buddies go out to lunch together, so there's a little bit of an interruption in the middle of the day on Thursdays. Our weekly mental health meetings. So there's a little bit of an interruption on Thursdays in the middle of the day, but Thursday and Friday I will be manufacturing all day. Liquid lunch, it can be. The local wing spot has Long Island's on sale, but try not to get sauced up and come back to work and run machinery with sharp tools. I want one now, mister. Sorry about you. Can't have it now. All good. Need your buddy Tim. We'll keep an eye out. Yeah, man. So like we're all small business owners. We're all entrepreneurs, and we all run ourselves ragged. So it's a mental health break, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about being self-employed now is being able to take some time every now and then and walk away when something's kicking your ass for the day. Whether it's grabbing a truck and a controller and running down to the park, or just going to grab some lunch with a couple of buddies. It definitely helps, man. When life's kicking your ass, it's lunch with a couple of buddies is cheap therapy. So and keeping the lights on. Is it how the V2 were misdrilled following a liquid lunch? Yeah, yeah. No, they the CNC machine handles all the drilling. I don't I don't have to do that, but that's how I end up with cuts on my hands sometimes is after a little bit of a liquid lunch. But no, try not to get sauced up. I got shit to get done, right? But it's always good to, like I said, take a break and talk to the buddies where you can't really do that when you're working for somebody else. Yeah, save your sanity. That's exactly what it is, man. You gotta take some time for yourself sometimes, even in the middle of the day. But yeah, plan on Friday around lunchtime sometime. Lunchtime at some time zone. Spend most of my day with an air hammer and seized lower control arm eccentrics. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. I would have my headphones on. Hard work is appreciated. Thank you very much. Yeah, Wesley and I do work pretty hard trying to keep this stuff flowing. So, and sometimes, like Wesley just said, when he placed the orders for the dual servo mounts, we had plenty of sliders in stock. And then for whatever reason, over the last couple of days, you guys just absolutely decimated the inventory of sliders. So, which is great. It's fantastic. We can't complain about that. But sometimes it's hard to predict what's going to move at what time. But anybody have any other questions on this? Anybody who may have just joined us or anything have any questions about the Oracle chassis for the SCX10 Pro? If not, we can get off topic and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Class 2, Class 1, whatever you guys want to talk about. We can talk about scale points. We can talk about how silly some rules are. Um, whatever you guys want to talk about. Appreciate your hard work and what you do for the community. Thank you. If it weren't for all of you guys in the chat supporting us, we wouldn't be doing it. That's for sure. So it's a labor of love. Above my head here, I've got the Class 2 and Class 1 trucks. If you guys want to see those or talk about those, let me know. Or we can continue talking Oracle versus the factory chassis. Again, this is that's all the clearance difference there is at the bottom of the skid right there. Is Stealth X Trans considered a functioning transfer case now with the rule set? I have no idea. I don't think it is. Could be wrong though. Not sure. The rules. A couple new questions posted and answers that are opposite of previous rulings. Absolutely. I screenshotted that, Tim, and I was gonna send it to you because that like we were discussing the other night, the not being able to see a gap between the body and the bumper. But later in the rules, it says that the bumper can be used to fill the rectangle. So it doesn't say anywhere in there that you have to, that the bumper has to touch the body in order to be considered part of the, to fill the rectangle. So I think they need to, as a committee, come up with a solid answer. I think somebody needs to ask the question very clearly so that they understand what we're trying to clarify, I think. But have all the makings for an ATL Pro 2 build. Now you're making me think I need an SCX Pro. The SCX10 Pro is a great truck, but if you're already building custom trucks, I don't I don't think you're going to benefit from getting the SCX10 Pro kit. If you're capable and willing to build a full custom truck, then there's no reason to go with a kit. Picked an MB4, starting to switch things over. Yeah, I like my Noble Pro. I tried following Tim's video on setting the winch up, but the buttons and mixing didn't work the same in the Noble Pro as the MB4, so I had to do it a little different. But I've got it set up the way I like it now, so. Would love one of the big stickers for the one-to-one. Are they on sale on the site? Not the gigantic one. It's not on the site. I could put them on the site, but the 12-inch ones are on the site. I think they're in stock on the site. Let me check. If they're not, I can put them on the site right now because I can print them in the morning. Inventory, yeah, there's 6 of them in inventory right now at $8.99 a piece. I know they're on the bench over there by the shipping supplies, so I know I've got some there. We are Tim Brett. Thank you. While you're here, I mean, I guess we can try to clarify it a little bit. What we're looking for is what the question actually is. You know, everybody's saying that there has to be, that basically the bumper has to touch. You can't see any air between the body and the bumper when you're trying to fill your rectangle. But if you're using the bumper to fill the rectangle, why does the body have to meet the rectangle? So there you go. That's the question. I don't know how better to word it, but that's the question that's been answered a different way 4 or 5 times. Some say you have to fill that gap. Some say you don't. Some don't understand the question, and some people don't know how to ask the question. But I know you're loaded with stuff. Yeah, you guys are busy, but I think everybody needs clarification before June for the TGH event. Otherwise, there's going to be some out-of-spec bodies when everybody gets there. So, and I think it's a little unfortunate that ECC is running 2022 rules after everybody built new trucks, but not my monkeys, not my circus, not my event. But can't really clarify until we work through it. We understand it's meeting Wednesday. Cool. That's all we ask for, man, is that you guys talk about it. We know you can't just shit out an answer without talking to everybody, but we do need to know. They decided to go and change the rules when I decided to build my first comp truck. They told us they were changing the rules like a year and a half ago. So anybody that no, Tim, not Tim Samuels. Anybody that was surprised by the new rules was new enough that didn't get the notification a year and a half in advance that the rules were changing. I don't have a fundamental issue with any of the new rules. I just think there's a couple of minor things that need clarified. Nothing that can't be worked through though. So I have no scale, class 2, class 3, gathering up class 1 parts. Got the 10 Pro out of interest of performance. And have a 1.9 truck to run at Badlands or Ultra 4 or whatever else there. The SCX10 Pro will be a fantastic truck at Badlands in the quarry. I probably wouldn't run Ultra 4 with it just because I just wouldn't. The suspension's not designed or built around that, so maybe a little rough on it in the Ultra 4 world, but I will see you there. I will have mine with me, and I will have my base camp, and I will have my 1.9 Wraith. That'll probably be the trinity of trucks and my SCX6 that I will be driving most of the time. I don't know whether I'm going to set up a vendor booth or not. I didn't set up a vendor booth very much last year, and I enjoyed the event a lot more. Noticed on my SCX Pro, the spur gear was really close to the servo mount, and it almost sounds like it's making very light contact. Did you run into this problem at all? Yes. The Spur gear is very, very, very close to the dual servo mount. And if you run too long of a screw, it will actually flex the servo mount and touch the spur gear to it. One of the things that I did in this chassis also, aside from moving the motor mount down 4 millimeters, was I moved it rearward 4 millimeters also. Hard to see, but you can see air through. You can see air gap in between the spur gear and the dual servo mount now. So yeah, that was one of the very first things I noticed when I was putting it all together was, wow, that is really close. Am I going to the TGH event in June? Should be pretty interesting. It's a tech table. Trying to go. June is a very, very, very busy month. If I do go to the TGH event, that would mean that I would only be in the shop 5 days in the month of June. So it's difficult to keep the lights on and pay the bills when you don't work for a month. But I'm trying. It's just June is a busy month between the TGH event and then we have family vacation planned and my anniversary and my son's birthday, Axial Fest. It's a busy month. Look forward to possibly meeting you there. I will be there, man. I've been there every year that they've had it at Badlands, and I don't plan on missing it. What class would be the best for a new guy to build a truck for and compete in? In my opinion, the easiest class to build a truck and point out is Class 2. Unfortunately, for a new person, that is also the biggest class and the most competitive class. So, manage your expectations your first couple of events and use them as a learning experience and an enjoyable time. Don't go to your first few events thinking, man, I'm going to smoke these fools, because you're not. But if you enjoy your time and you figure out the people who are very good at what they do and you follow around behind them and you ask questions, they will absolutely answer your questions and they will absolutely teach you a thing or two without you even having to ask a question. Just by watching them, you'll see how they work their way through the courses and how they utilize the rules to benefit their course runs. It's not all about just racing through the gates. There's a lot of strategy involved in it, and that is the part that takes time to learn. So when to pull up to a gate and immediately pull winch instead of jacking around wasting time or purposely hitting it. Most of the time you don't purposely hit a gate, but there are instances where you are absolutely or could absolutely just decide I'm hitting that gate when I get there as strategy instead. So obviously you don't want to hit gates. If you can avoid hitting gates, that's beneficial, but there are times where that's the best option. So again, my opinion would be Class 2, but again, manage expectations and have a good time. Mine and Tim's first event went out with 13-pound TRX4s. Probably didn't go all that well for you, did it? My first few comps didn't go all that well for me either. But like I said, it's the people and the environment are just as fun to me as driving the trucks are. So that's I go to enjoy the people, and if I do well on course, then I did well on course. The money spent getting there and the money spent going home is the cost of having fun. And it's usually always worth it. Any other questions about the Oracle? Yeah, just looking to have a good time. Got the new Pro. It's my first flat rail chassis. Got out for the first run. Pretty stoked on the performance. Yeah, like I said, they are a great truck, especially for someone like you who may not be ready for a full custom put it together. Researching what parts fit, what are the best parts for this or that. It's nice to be able to just buy the truck, put it together, and get on course with a very well performing truck. It saves a lot of the headache when you're first getting started. So that's exactly what this truck is very good at, and that's what this chassis set is for. Also, is to take people who want to just buy a kit and be able to run class one. There you go. Makes it a little easier. So again, here's the factory rails. And then here are the Oracle rails. Oracle rails should be right around the $65 mark retail. And they should be on the website on Friday around lunchtime, some time zone. I don't have a perfect time yet. Depends on how many interruptions I have during the day, Thursday and Friday when I'm manufacturing them. But so there is the belly height difference again for anybody who missed it. Having a 3-degree angled skid versus a flat skid. Trying to figure out C3 tires for indoor course at Crawler Canyon and wheels for my C1. I'm still waiting on the Proline Hyrax LPs for my class 3, but if I were you, I would just do whatever Lucas Klein is doing for class 3 because his trucks work very well. So if you can run a similar tire and foam setup to what he's doing, as long as the truck weight is similar, you should be fine with that. I'll build it out of the box first, but I know I want your rails for this. Yeah, that's the same thing I did. I built it out of the box, threw a couple of battery packs through it to get a good feel for how it works, and then just got to work on chassis. Crawler Canyon do Tuscan anti-foams. Yeah, that's probably not a bad suggestion. The Tusks work pretty well. He's not running C3 in the indoor course. He may not be doing it right now, but he has done it, and he has won it. So I would ask him. If anybody has the best advice for what works at Crawler Canyon, it is the son of the proprietor of the establishment. If I were building a truck specifically for Canyon, I would probably be blowing up Lucas's messages asking him what I need to do. So that's my suggestion for C3. But again, I'm waiting on the Hyrax LPs for my class 3 truck. I don't know what the holdup is, but I hope they come soon. And here is Oracle versus C1 Pro. If you line up like motor mount heights, it's pretty decent height difference between the C1 Pro and the Oracle, but the Oracle is a different truck, so built around different parts. Yeah, Lucas does know his stuff. And then for C1 wheels, any zero offset 1.9 wheel is fine. Got wheels and anti-foams waiting for the Hyrax LPs. Yeah, I've been waiting on them. I pre-ordered them the day they announced them, and just been waiting on them. I'm okay sometimes. Yeah, all right. You need to stop winning and let somebody else take a trophy home every now and then. Oh, here's the built truck again. Again, I just threw in random RTR electronics to test it, to run it. And again, I guess there's a better view of how much of a gap I got between the motor mount and the servo mount. Stock, you can't see through any of that. Wow, that is not focusing at all. Anyway, sorry. using my backup trucks this year. Yeah, backup trucks. Quote, backup trucks. Here's a G10 version of the Oracle. Haven't shown this yet on here. I just realized it was sitting over there on the edge of the table. So, glossy G10 like always, and matte finish carbon fiber. My preference. I guess this isn't the latest version of this. It doesn't have the slots in it. But this was my test fit piece to make sure that the integrated shock hoops fit. And they did. So, and the sliders still fit. That was this version. It only has 50 trucks. Yeah, 50 or 60. Any colors coming with these carbon chassis? No, I only do colored carbon in short batches, and I usually do not announce them before I post them for sale. The colored carbons are difficult to cut and clean, so it is additional work and additional cleanup for me, and sometimes I just don't have time to do that. But there will be eventually small batches of colored carbons, but when or what colors, not at liberty to say that right now. Have to make sure they still work from time to time. Ooh, yeah. Swapping out electronics and doing all that stuff to make them work for comp day sucks, huh? I guess I'll show this again with the Pro V2. I've been watching some comp videos and seen a few guys go through gates in reverse. What are the benefits to this? If you were backing down into a hole that your truck would flip over going forwards in, or if you were backing down so sometimes you'll back down a hill, take a reverse to back down a hill to drive up through the gate, because your truck won't make the corner to side hill to turn uphill. Or if you're backing into an area where there's a boundary or something and you're not going to be able to turn, you can back down in and drive out at a different angle. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that you'll learn at your first comp is strategy. More than anything, pay attention to strategy. Missing the gates is hard enough on its own, but playing the gates is a whole different game. Off topic. C1 Pro Style 6x6. Can that happen? I know there was a post on the fan page, but wasn't sure what happened after that. There are a couple team drivers that have them currently, test fitting and prototype running. So if Wesley's still in here or if he's still listening, maybe he can chime in on where they are at with that. I think at least 2 or 3 of the team drivers have them to verify fitment, basically, and get link measurements off to the link manufacturers. Try to make things as easy on you guys as possible. Links are usually the hardest thing for people to figure out, so we try to figure them out as best we can for you and give those measurements to the link manufacturers. Course design and time management, one reverse is cheaper than a winch if needed. Absolutely. So, Oracle chassis, ATL Pro V2. So we can show this again here. Lining up shock heights, you can see there is quite a bit of belly height difference here. But the motor mount locations are fairly similar, so pretty nice. Correct, just waiting if my calculated link lengths work. If everything jives, we'll have some completely new 6x6 platforms. Yep, that's what I thought, Wesley. Thank you for chiming back in on that. And I kind of told him a little bit ago that there may be some leaf spring stuff coming if you get done prototyping stuff too. So I didn't give him too much information though. Anybody who's just chiming in got any questions on the Oracle, or we can keep going off topic? Didn't think I was going to build a 6x6 again. Yeah, just when you think they're all gone, they show back up. I haven't built a 6x6 in probably seven or 8 years. Old style, original SCX10 or AX10 axle housings was the last time I built a 6x6. Not really my thing, but I will build another one just because I like to have a little bit of everything. Been waiting for a good 6x6 chassis again. I love the style of C1 Pro, so it'd be perfect for what I want. Should be. 6 ground up platforms being developed. Yeah, so I guess we can talk about that a little bit. Being that Wesley and I manufacture and design everything, we design everything in house together, and then I do a lot of the manufacturing here, and then Wesley handles the laser cut stuff. He organizes that and gets that going. So we get the opportunity to rapidly develop and rapidly prototype things. So we can have 5, 6, 7 projects going on at once, and it allows us to keep things moving quickly. We don't have to wait a couple of weeks for prototypes from other places, and we can get them in our team drivers' hands or in our hands much sooner to be able to get them to you guys sooner. So we have a lot of things going on at once, and usually though, we don't release anything until we've thoroughly tested it and our team drivers have tested it. Sometimes that's 6 weeks, sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's a year. Going through the prototype phases, like the high-low, took a while. Yeah, shout out to team drivers. Absolutely. Team drivers are big helps. And the crew of guys that we have as team drivers are very good builders. So even if something's a little bit off, they can figure out how to make it work. But they will tell us, hey, this was a little bit off. This made this more difficult. And we're able to quickly change that and either get them a replacement or get a replacement in somebody else's hands to make sure that we corrected that issue and see if someone else comes up with a different issue. But yeah, the high-low took quite a while, quite a few revisions. The Pro V2 took quite a while and took quite a few revisions as well. I know it's called the V2, but there were probably 6 prototypes of that, of different geometries and different shapes. So before we actually released the V2 of that chassis, there were probably 6 revisions. And the our C1 Trail chassis, which is pretty much relegated to a leaf spring chassis now. I think we were on like 7, it's listed in my computer as like revision 7.6 or something like that. So there was dozens of minor, just rolling changes along the years. So we keep them moving, we keep updating little things, even on it's like the C1 Pro. This is an old style C1 Pro. And right here in this corner here, people, if they took a really nasty tumble, and this is actually one that somebody sent back that we warrantied out. If you took a really hard tumble, you could see some stretching here. So we changed the profile between here and here to be a fillet instead of having that more of a cut down in that corner. But it was just a rolling revision. It wasn't anything crazy. High-low's best performing rig so far. Glad you like it. I need to build another one. Any UTB 18 flat rail chassis? Where is that little feller? It's right here on the bench. It's so little I can't even see it. Like that. I've seen a new chassis on one of Lucas's trucks. Yeah, Lucas picked up a prototype from us at Crawlapalooza that he was working with. Small, it was a small batch type release thing that we have a couple of the public have them in hand. Tim TRD Adventures has one of them also. It was a crumple zone, got a better safety rating. Yeah, yeah. It's and it took quite a fall to bend them, and it had to be an unusually heavy truck or an unusually heavy fall to get it to do anything. But we did see like two or three of them that were bent over a year and a half. So we just made a rolling change on it and kept it moving. But this is my UTB 18 Holmes SHV 500 LP servo. TGH gears in the axles and TGH transmission gears. Holmes 2000 revolver, 380 revolver, and HK Hobbies STFU ESC on this one. The ESC is not in it right now, and then a couple of quick little sliders for a battery tray and receiver and speed control mount. So haven't said anything about the chassis, so I guess people are interested in my trucks. Yeah, you don't have to hide it. It's not a secret. So have I missed it on the site? No, you haven't missed it on the site. This is another one of those things where I need to do a couple little more tweaks to. There was some geometry issues with the front links here with the factory links. Again, I wanted to make this a bolt-on type affair for people, and it's just about getting the geometry right, keeping the pinion angle swing in check, and like you can see the rear, maybe not. The rear pinion angle's a little low right now, and the sweep stays pretty level. So I've got the rear figured out, but the front I wasn't able to use my link riser holes. So that's one thing I need to change on that. Just minor changes, and then I need to do some bracing because there's no braces in this yet either. It's kind of a floppy noodle. But that will be coming down the pipeline eventually. It's just one of those things that's not really on the top of my list right now, but it is something I'm working on. Chassis details. It's a mini high-low. I basically took the latest revision of the high-low and scaled it down. Obviously, I had to draw the belly area and locate those holes accurately, but then I scaled the rest of the high-low down to it and just cleaned up where the two different designs overlapped, basically. So front shock mounting and rear shock mounting area is very, very, very similar to our standard high-low. And then the belly area just fits the stock skid, which if it fits the stock skid, it'll fit the deluxe Mark Horse skid also. So if you want to flip the motor around, that's another thing with the UTB 18 and doing a link riser with the motor in the factory location. Get these wires out of the way. With the motor in the factory location, you can see how close that revolver is to that bolt. It's pretty close. So I don't know if this is probably going to be one of the more common sized motors. It probably, it's not going to be like, oh man, everybody's going to run this Holmes motor, but I think most of these 380 size motors are reasonably similar in size. So I think as long as it clears this one, it should be fine. And if not, then they can buy a new motor. So, but when I was testing that truck, I was running it on the HK Hobbies ESC and that 2000 kV revolver on 4S, and the axle shafts said no mas. And then I fixed the axle shafts, and then I broke a rear drive shaft. And then I fixed that, and then I broke a rear axle shaft, and then I fixed that and broke another rear drive shaft. So maybe 4S power is a little stronger than what that truck's reasonably capable of handling, unfortunately, because I run 4S on everything, and I didn't want to have to buy new batteries. but I might have to. Back to the Oracle. Anybody got any questions on the Oracle? Anybody that's stopping in new? Anything? SCX10 Pro Oracle replacement chassis. Stock chassis, replacement chassis. Flat horizontal skid, much lighter weight than the factory aluminum rails. Lowered forward motor mount holes and rearward mounted a little bit for clearance with the dual servo mount. Any other questions on that? Or we can keep going off topic. Either way is fine with me. Whatever you guys want to do. Got my Brazen Scale RC Da Bombs on here. And some Hyraxes is what I've been testing this truck with. Pretty decent steering angle out of this for a stock truck. Pretty good factory. I haven't actually measured the angle of it, how much angle, steering angle you get out of it, but seems pretty reasonable. Steel axle tubes seem reasonably strong. The plastics feel pretty good as far as the axles go. Skid plate, the only annoyance, I guess, the skid plate's a flat flush skid, so there's really not a big reason to change it. But the transmission bolts into the skid plate from the ends, as well as the 4 holes in the bottom. So that's interesting. So you can't really, I was going to make a different skid for it, maybe change the link geometry up with the skid a little bit, but the way the transmission's integrated into it, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I guess if you wanted to reuse the factory transmission on a different skid, it's going to be difficult. But the other SCX-based skids bolt right to the chassis, so if you wanted to change the transmission to something else, you just change the whole skid plate. Wheel restock, yeah, it's in the plans. It'll probably be 3 weeks to a month, I would have to say. This batch probably will not go to anodizing. I'll probably have the next batch go to anodizing. So do one more raw wheel drop batch and then go anodized. I like the look of the raw wheels though. They're pretty sparkly. I like it. See what else I got down here. What is this? Oh, no. I've got a Vanquish chassis down here somewhere. Let me look at this. All right, here's a VS410 chassis rail. So we can kind of compare something like yay. I don't know. Not very similar. Let's see. So if you're going from a VS410 chassis to our Oracle chassis, you can see how much shorter the belly area is. Bumper heights, the VS410 has a big drop down, but the belly length is massively different. Raw aluminum is sexy, yeah. Trying to find the motor I had for my C1. Now I can't find it. Well, hopefully it wasn't a super expensive motor like my Holmes Polar 400s. I'd hate to lose one of these. I run the Polar 400 in a 13XX, and of course I got the purple hoods on all of them because I like purple. And this C1 Pro is rocking red silk weave. Yeah, I feel you there, Rob. My belly area is getting massive too. Just means we're more valuable. We're like Vanquish. Never thought of it that way. Oh man. Yeah. Oracle. BR Mini. Yeah, I always run BR Minis also. Yep. Holmes Polar Pro 17. Yeah, you better find that. Better find that one. I typically, this motor has a burned up armature. Crawlmaster Expert 13 turn. I used to run these motors in just about everything, but this one's got a burned up armature. It got a little spicy on me one day. So I keep this one around for mock-up purposes. Like when I was doing this, I mocked this motor and this motor in here. This one's obviously much larger, so I knew if this one would fit, then just about anything would fit. But this motor, I use it for everything, for mock-up. Make sure I get my clearances where I want them. But I should probably order a new armature for it, or get a hold of John and see if I can have him rebuild it or something. But I don't know, Vanquish 3 gear and they both disappeared. Well, it should be easier to find that way. But if your workbenches look anything like mine, it's going to take you a minute of putting stuff away to be able to find it. Like just on this workbench alone, here's a VFD and a VFD twin and a forward motor mount and a wheel and a interior and a body and stuff that's falling off the bench. And that's all like 10 inches off camera. So like that'll tell you what the rest of this bench looks like. So this side to me, I've got a truck and frame rails and tools and more tools and a body and a set of wheels. There's just shit everywhere. A UTB 18 mini Capra. I have shit everywhere. And now that I'm moving stuff around, these are the spacers that go between the forward motor mount and the transmission on the SCX10 Pro. So when you're switching to the Oracle, you just remove these two spacers and leave them on your workbench to get lost. I don't think they're really necessary. So the motor mount has two mounting holes on each side of it, and it's a pretty stout plastic going into carbon fiber. So as long as you use a reasonable length screw, shouldn't have a problem. That was one thing I did see on the SCX10 Pro groups. The instructions call for a 16 millimeter screw into the motor mount, and people were bottoming the screws out and stripping the holes in them before they got tight. You should never assemble a truck with a power driver that doesn't have a clutch, for one, so that if the screw bottoms out, you don't strip out the threads. Or if you're not capable of doing that, then a standard manual driver, you should be able to feel when the threads are getting close to stripping. But in case you can't, it appears that maybe that was a misprint in the instructions. I don't know, because mine was fine. I followed the instructions on mine and didn't have a problem, but I've seen a couple of posts that people said they were having a problem. So there's that. For anybody who has not built one yet, may run 12 or 14 millimeter screw instead of the 16. Why the brushed over brushless motor in ESC? I I prefer brush motors because I like the low speed control of a Holmes brush setup on 4S. You can get brushless motors to start up and run super slow now, but previously those setups were complicated or large and heavy. With the new revolver type silent ESCs that are coming out from multiple different vendors, um, the Deluxe Silent Assassin, the HK Hobbies STFU, the Holmes Hobbies Crawlmaster Mini V2, those paired with a revolver type motor are fantastic. And I run that setup in a Sorka Light type comp truck that I don't really comp, but um, I do like the low speed control of that truck with that brushless setup. But otherwise, I typically just run brushed and 4S. I talked about it a little bit last week. All of my comp trucks run the same servo winch, the same motor, the same transfer case, very similar gearing, the same ESC, um, so that they all feel similar in punch and low speed control and things like that. So across my entire comp truck lineup, they all have the same Holmes Hobbies motor and ESC and servos. What ESC is 4S brush? Thinking of going brushed on Class 1 Holmes BR Mini. That's what I run on all of them. Little teeny tiny BR Mini. It's right here. Just that little guy. Velcro it to the skid plate next to the transfer case. Wiring's kind of a disaster in this right now, so don't judge me on that. But the ESC sits next to the transfer case, and the receiver sits in front of the transfer case below the prop shaft. Right here. Here. This guy. That's the receiver. What's up with the purple link? That is a purple wire looming, and my servo winch, my rear steering servo wires go into the wire looming with the link, so that I don't have to worry about zip ties or the wires getting hung up on anything. And it all stays nice and neat in there. I haven't ran it a whole lot like that yet, so I don't know if there will be any chafing issues or anything like that as of right now, but seems to work fine, and I don't think I'm going to have an issue with it. Smoked to brushed ESC was looking at a BR Mini to replace it. Yeah, they offer them in ready to run, waterproof or a solder your own type of thing, and I typically go the solder your own route so I can shorten my wires and not make them look like this. But I ran out of a couple of the pins for the servo wires. I've got a wiring kit, a connector kit, and I normally shorten all my wires down to where they're not a bundled up disaster like this. But I need to restock on some connectors. Coming soon, I guess. And then for Class 1, same thing. Puller 400, purple hoods, BR Mini. You can see the BR Mini hanging here on the edge of the slider. I just like them all to act the same. Any other questions? Getting close to time for me to go home. We got about 10 more minutes here to BS or ask questions about this or get off topic some more. I don't care, whatever you guys want to do for the next 10 minutes or so, but getting close to my bedtime. I'm old. What's the rig on the machine behind you? That is my Class 2 truck. We can talk about that if you want. Howdy, nerds. Josh, thanks for stopping in, boss man. I can grab the Class 2 real quick. Again, don't judge my wiring. I'm out of connectors, but same similar setup. You know, Holmes Puller 400 13 turn, BR Mini, Creeper T. This truck has an SHV 650 steering servo in it instead of the 800s like my other two trucks. So a little bit different on the steering servo, but virtually the same. They all bolt in the same. They all wire the same. So, and then the Holmes Hobbies Progress winch. Again, basically a similar, very similar setup to my other Class 1 and Class 2 truck. This truck has 90 millimeter shocks on it instead of 80s like the other two trucks. So yeah, this truck's just a little bit different. Vanquish axles, Vanquish rear axle, and a prototype front axle that unfortunately hasn't been released because it's a fantastic axle and somebody would rather focus on something else instead of that axle, which I get it. Sometimes sometimes priorities lie somewhere else, and that's what's going on with that project, I think. But it's a fantastic axle, so I hope it comes out soon because I need about 3 more of them. So yeah, this is my Class 2. Carbon fiber body, carbon interior, carbon drop bed, but no drop bed points because shock towers. Carbon tailgate. So yeah, pretty basic builds, but they meet the Sorca points and the Sorca rules, and they perform reasonably well. They perform better than I can drive them, which isn't real hard, I suppose. So back to the Oracle. For anybody who checked in late or missed talking about it the first couple times, this is our SCX10 Pro replacement chassis. Call it the Oracle. Flat skid area, allowing it to be used in Class 1, 2, or 3. Is quite a bit lighter than the factory chassis rails. The factory aluminum rail weighs in at like 69 grams, and this is 20-something. I would have to look at my measurements again like I did a little bit ago because I already forgot the numbers, again, because I'm old. 100% bolt-on, no modifications necessary. You can even run the factory sliders, which is something that most aftermarket chassis are not an option for. We moved the forward motor mount location down 4 millimeters and back 4 millimeters, giving you a nice gap between the motor mount, or between the spur gear and the dual servo mount. Run factory body mounting. Everything works just like it should. And if you decide at a later date you want to remove that big transmission and go to a different style transfer case, any of the standard SCX10 based aftermarket flat skids will bolt directly to the chassis. So you can run a different transfer case if you wanted to. This happens to be a blank version of our Pro skid. I keep a couple of blank skids that are side drilled on hand in case I run across a transmission that has a different mounting pattern, or if I want to move one around, and then I can kind of figure out where I need to, if I'm going to do a production skid, I can decide where the holes need to be on that. Keeps the 12.5 wheelbase. Yeah, it's 100% stock links, 100% factory bolt on everything. You build the kit per the instructions, just with a different rail. So instead of bolting them on with the factory rail, you bolt on our chassis instead. But follow the instructions the way they were written. Just swap the rails. That was the intent. Make it a little easier for people who are new into the comp scene, or people who want something a little easier than a full-on custom build. They can buy the Pro kit and buy this rail set and be able to get into Class 1 comp or 2 or 3 really, without really pushing a skill set or without being confusing. Help people ease in a little bit, and then if they want to modify from there, there is still room for improvement with the truck itself. And then when people are ready to go to a full custom build, they can go into something like the Class 1 C1 Pro chassis, which again is what I'm running in all 3 classes this year, is carbon fiber versions of the C1 Pro. What shocks do you like for C1? Trying to decide on C1 shocks, but I'm running the S8E 80 millimeters now. Yeah, I run 80 millimeter on my C1s. I run portals on them, and I found that like 78 to 82 millimeters is where I liked them. But my current C1 truck has DriveTech Ultra Shorts on it. The S80s are nice though. I don't see a problem with that. So, any last questions before we get out of here for the evening? I gotta be back. I'll be back here at the shop by 7:25 in the morning. I put my son gets on the bus at about 7:18, and then I just drive here from there. So depending on how many stoplights I get caught at, can be anywhere between 7:20 and 7:30 getting here. So be back here before the sun comes up. Great episode. Hopefully it was better than last week. I need to figure out my mic situation because apparently I still suck at that. But I tried a different camera, which hopefully it doesn't suck. We'll see. We'll try to make them better every week. Bear with me. I'm new to this. So, all right. Well, I think sounds good to me. Yeah, thank you. I think that's going to call it for the night, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Don't forget to hit the like button. Does anyone know where I can get spring cups for the S8Es? Man, 3D print them. They're not hard. There's probably files on Thingiverse for mini Teesprings. Now I sound like Josh. It ain't the equipment. No. So last week I had the wrong cable on the mic. This week I think I had it figured out, but I decided not to risk it and just went back to what I did last week. So I will try to figure it out this week to make sure that it actually works for next week. But I got the right cable now for the mic, but I just didn't want to risk it. Anyway, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to. Let me know if you guys want me to keep doing these. If not, I won't do them. If you want me to keep coming back on Monday nights, let me know. If you want me to do a different night, sorry about you. There's too many other people on the other nights. So it's Monday night or nothing. And go watch TRD Adventures live stream from last Thursday. I was on there. We bullshitted about a bunch of different stuff. So check that out if you're bored as well. And we'll see you next week, I suppose. Night, everybody.